GLC is now offering a free audio stream of our 24/7 broadcast that we're calling GLC Radio, an online radio station that broadcasts our round-the-clock audio stream on a variety of platforms. GLC Radio gives you the ability to listen to GLC virtually anywhere, through your home or office computer, or on the go with a mobile device. You can access GLC Radio through our website or by searching for God's Learning Channel through iTunes Internet Radio, TuneInRadio.com, or on Shoutcast.com. Explore various GLC Radio-enabled mobile apps by visiting our website at glc.us.com/listen/GLC Radio. GLC Radio, your free connection to GLC anywhere, anytime.
Well, welcome to the update. This is Friday, and so this is the weekend. So what's going on or not?
Oh, there is so much going on behind the scenes. I tell you what, only certain members of my staff have heard some of the things that are taking place, and I'm telling you, God's hand is definitely on GLC, and
Amen.
we've got some amazing things happening behind the scenes. I'm so, I can hardly be still.
Pumped.
I'm pumped. I am really, really pumped about our God because He is so
Awesome.
incredible.
Yes.
I'm overwhelmed by His goodness
Absolutely.
and by His ability to speak to us. I always expect Him to, but when He does, and then things happen, it's like, wow.
How did you do that?
Wow, God, you're so amazing. Okay, so I've got the weekend lineup for you. We had some great programs this week. Oh, my goodness. And there's one of them. Cowboy Dan. Dan Harrell is his real name. That'll be airing tonight at 8 p.m. and Sunday early morning at 5 a.m. for all the farmers out there.
Dan is sure a sweet guy.
He is a sweet guy. Oh, hey, Dan will be joining us for Roundup.
He will.
Yes, the second week he'll be with us.
All right.
For a couple of nights anyway. Then we had Pastor Monty Irfan. Oh my goodness. If you did not see this show, you have got to see this
Amen.
show. Not only did he give his testimony, which was amazing. This was like in March of 2011 when he came. He gave his testimony, but he was speaking things then that hadn't yet happened in the Middle East. And telling us,
Prophetically, yeah.
this is what's going to be happening. I know Mom and I were watching it in the kitchen, and Dad kept running in there and going, this is the most amazing show. I mean, he must have run in there 5 times. Because Monty was on target.
Well, when we taped it, it was before it ever happened. And
It was before the Arab Spring
yeah.
that started in Tunisia, actually. But he was talking about what would happen if these things started happening. Okay, so catch that program Saturday at 1 a.m. That'll be for you people staying up late tonight on Friday. Saturday night at 8 p.m. Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m. And Monday morning as we're going back to work at 7 a.m. All those are Central Time, of course. Judy Reamer, oh my goodness. It's only airing in the middle of the night, really. Saturday at 5 a.m. and Monday at 1 a.m. What an astounding program. The first hour of that, she had handed us a video of a presentation that she had done of her testimony. She's Jewish. And I had missed it before.
Oh, really?
I had never heard it. I did not know that Judy Reamer had heard the voice of God, and it sounded like bells. Remember, she's Jewish. And this is before she came to know the Lord, and it scared her. She wasn't reading her Bible. She didn't know that the people at Mount Sinai had actually covered their ears. Don't talk to me because I will die.
You'll die.
That's exactly what happened to her. She's covering her ears. She was terrified.
Wow.
She knew she was hearing the voice of God, and she was sure she was going to die. Like, is that amazing or what?
It is.
You know what? God never changes.
Right.
I've heard him, but it wasn't with bells. So I guess you have to be of the line of David to get to hear him in bells.
Maybe so.
Darn. Anyway. Okay. And then last but not least, we have, oh my goodness. This was the new program that aired this week. The first hour, Jeremy Gimpel. Second hour, Joshua Waller. Jeremy Gimpel gave a presentation at Hayovel, which is where Joshua Waller is. He had given a presentation, a live stream presentation, a teaching on the book of Ezra that is just astounding because it applies to us today. So watch it, set your recorders, and all sorts of things. Call the bookstore, get copies of that. Anyway, that will be airing Saturday afternoon at 2 p.m., Sunday at 1 a.m., Sunday night at 8 p.m., and Monday afternoon at 2 p.m. We paired that with Josh Waller because Joshua and his brother Caleb have the Joshua and Caleb reports, where they're interviewing people over in Judea and Samaria. And they had done an interview with Jeremy Gimpel that's part of season 2. We aired that on Wednesday's update. But it was because they did such a great interview with him finding out Jeremy's story. So anyway, that was the connection there. If you didn't make it,
if people missed the update, can they catch it on the?
They can find it online. I think Mason keeps those posted for a week. I could be wrong, but I think that's what he does.
Okay.
I don't know. Whatever he does, it's always right. That's all I know.
I know it.
Dad, you have one of the best letters I think has ever come across a desk.
It's very good. Let's read it. Dear GLC, I just started watching your GLC network. What a great channel. I've only been watching it 3 or 4 months. You have addressed all the problems of today's world, and you have great guests who are on target 100%. Keep up the great work. Sincerely, Jerry from Lubbock. I'm a senior citizen, and I have no computer as of now.
So with age comes wisdom.
Yes.
That's what we know.
No computer.
Boy, Jerry, thank you so much. That
Awesome.
is just, what a blessing.
It was.
What a blessing.
Yes, absolutely. So glad you found us.
Yeah.
I don't know how you did, but
Yeah,
so glad
you didn't
did.
tell us how you found us. Walking down the road and stumbled on us.
I guess. Well, I have a devotional today. It's called Feast Your Eyes on This.
Okay.
Proverbs 15:15 says, all the days of the afflicted are evil, but he that is of a merry heart has a continual feast. Solomon wrote, a merry heart has a continual feast. But why does it seem like so many of us are not feasting? How do we maintain a merry heart? Too often we brood and complain over all the things we lack. Somehow we've come to believe that if good things would only come our way, we'd be truly happy. But it's not good things that bring a merry heart. It's living a life of wholehearted faith. Paul said that he was content both in want and in plenty. Matthew Henry said, discontent is a sin that is its own punishment and makes men torment themselves. It makes the spirit sad, the body sick, and all the enjoyment sour. It's the heaviness of the heart and rottenness of the bone. A third century man penned these last words to a friend. He said, it's a bad world, an incredibly bad world. But I've discovered in the midst of it a quiet and holy people who have learned a great secret. They have found a joy which is 1,000 times better than any pleasure of our sinful life. They're despised and persecuted, but they care not. They're masters of their souls. They've overcome the world. These people are the Christians, and I am one of them. Lord, help us not to focus on the worldly things we lack. Help us to master our souls and overcome the world. We want to be men and women of great faith. Lord, you've come that your joy would remain in us and that our joy would remain full. Help us to experience the full joy you have for us today. In Jesus' name we pray. Let's begin feasting and filling our spiritual bellies with his word. Let's make our mouth to be filled with his praise. And the joy of the Lord is our strength.
Amen.
That was good. Joy of the Lord is our strength.
Absolutely.
It's the only
it
thing
is.
that's our strength.
Yes.
That's why we always have to take our thoughts captive to the obedience of Jesus Christ.
That's right.
And believe him. That without faith, it's impossible to please God. So whatever is going on in your life, we serve a God whose name is I Am. He is the beginning. He is the end. He's the everything in between. And there is nothing that your eyes behold that he himself did not create.
That's right.
Even if man says, well, I created it. Well, I'm pretty sure that he was created by the God who created everything and gave man the ability to create, to think, to process, to have a free choice.
That's right.
And the best free choice, the best choice we can make is to love him with our whole heart.
That's the truth.
Okay, so we got some news. Is it any good?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's probably news. Okay, it looks like this first one comes from the Washington Times. Oh, yeah. The mass torture, murder, and displacement of Christian families and other religious minorities in the Middle East must be called by its real name. Genocide, members of Congress said at a gathering of a nonpartisan organization that advocates against religious persecution. We can't sit idly by. We have to commit to action. Representative Daniel Lipinski, an Illinois Democrat, said at a meeting of supporters of In Defense of Christians on Capitol Hill. IDC, formed in 2014, promotes preservation and protection of Christians in their historical communities in countries such as Egypt, Iran, Iraq, Lebanon, Syria, and Turkey, as well as in the Holy Land areas of Israel, Jordan, and the Palestinian territories. While Christians are IDC's main focus, the nonprofit also advocates for human and conscious rights of other ethnic and religious minorities.
On Thursday, Representative Jeff Fortenberry, Nebraska Republican, and Anna Eshoo, California Democrat, introduced a resolution expressing the sense of Congress that those who commit atrocities against Christians and other religious minorities are committing war crimes against humanity, and genocide. The resolution calls on signers of the United Nations Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide, signed in 1948, to be reminded of their legal obligations under the agreement. It also says those who have forced the migration of religious communities from their ancestral homelands, especially the Nineveh Plain, the historic home of Yazidis, be tracked, sanctioned, arrested, prosecuted, and punished.
The oldest of the Christian communities are being wiped out, as well as people of other religious backgrounds. Ms. Eshoo told the IDC event, "We really are called to do this, and I think future generations and historians will not judge us well if we don't answer this call. This kind of resolution will be submitted to parliaments worldwide," said Robert Destro, a law professor at Catholic University of America and IDC board member. Ambassador Bayan Sami Abdul Rahma of Kurdistan told the IDC group that her nation of 5 million is already swamped with 2 million refugees, and more are coming. These people are suffering genocide under international law, and this needs to be properly publicized, she said. Kurdish military are fighting against the Islamic State every day, she added, but we cannot do this alone. Wow.
I'm glad somebody
Waking up.
on the Hill is finally
Waking up?
doing something about
Making
it.
some noise. I don't understand. Okay, I watched the debate last night, or parts of the debate. I think that was last night.
No, it's the night before.
Night before. Okay, it was the night before. And I'm like, but then last night, I'm like, can you people not do any news that's not about the debate?
They can't.
With so much going on,
Yeah.
it's like the news article that we just read. This is all you people can talk about. And it's one after the other after the other.
Well, here's another one that you're not going to hear about on your.
No, and this
media.
one is actually very, very important.
Oh, it is. It comes from worldtribune.com. Some 100,000 Palestinians have fled refugee camps in Syria for Europe. The head of the Palestinian Forum in Europe said. Zaid al-Alul said 2,300 Palestinians have drowned as they tried to reach Greece, and about 430 Palestinians and Syrians went missing while they were on their way to Italy. Alul told the Al-Risala online newspaper that nearly 500,000 Palestinians have fled their homes in Syrian refugee camps, and only 200,000 have remained inside Syria, while the rest have found shelter in a number of Arab countries.
The United Nations High Commission for Refugees reported last month that more than 250,000 migrants had arrived in Europe by sea so far in 2015, 124,000 in Greece and 98,000 in Italy. July set a new record for a single month, with 107,500 migrants estimated to have entered the European Union.
The Palestinian Authority's foreign ministry said that it was following with great interest the plight of the Palestinian refugees in Syria. Most of the Palestinians living in Syria have been forced to leave the country to unknown destinations because of the harsh conditions surrounding them, the foreign ministry said. The ministry said it was also in touch with the United Nations to discuss the possibility of allowing Palestinian refugees in Arab countries to move back to the West Bank and the Gaza Strip.
You know, what I find interesting is that there are so many Palestinians
In refugee camps.
in Syria, and that's where they've lived for a really long time. And you know what? They've survived over there. The Christians have survived over there. There's a lot of people that have survived under Assad.
And you know who persecutes the Palestinian refugees?
Yes, the Islamic State
Them
and the rebels.
yeah, all the rest of the Arab countries.
Yeah, fellow Muslims.
Also, they're fellow Muslims. Exactly right. Yeah. Okay, this next one comes from the Horn News. Well, that didn't take long. The outcry over German traditions being offensive to the country's Muslim refugees has already started. A. Morad Amarati from the Netherlands created a Change.org petition demanding, get this, Munich, Germany, cancel its annual Oktoberfest celebration. Amarati says Muslims cannot tolerate this un-Islamic event and that it will offend all the Muslim refugees coming from Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan. The petition gained hundreds of signatures before it was closed. Here's the petition in full.
Dear City Council of Munich, I'm writing this letter to bring to your attention something that I and many Muslims believe is unfair and requires attention. I would like to inform you that the Oktoberfest is an intolerant and anti-Islamic event. We tried to ignore the event, but there are too many un-Islamic acts done at Oktoberfest, such as alcohol consumption, public nudity, etc. We understand that the Oktoberfest is a yearly German tradition, but we Muslims cannot tolerate this un-Islamic event because it offends us and all Muslims on the earth. We are requesting the immediate cancellation of the upcoming Oktoberfest event. We also believe that the Oktoberfest might also offend all the Muslim refugees coming from Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan. The cancellation of the Oktoberfest event will help refugees not to forget their Islamic history. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Sincerely, Morad Amarati.
You know, I had an office in Germany for several years, and I went to one of those Oktoberfest. The only thing they did that might offend them was drink beer. They drank.
Well, you know, I don't know that we have to remind anybody of this, but Germany's kind of been known for centuries for its beer making.
Yeah.
It's like, it's what they do.
Why didn't they pick a different
Don't
country?
live there.
Yeah, don't live there if you
why don't they
offend
pick
you.
a different country to go to? The Pakistanis.
Go back home.
Yeah, go back home.
And it's like, if you don't want to live in that country, then don't live there.
That's right.
But that's their country.
That's right.
That's right.
They
Well, it seems like there's a similar problem in Israel with the Pakistans.
the
Or
Pakistans,
not Pakistans, the
Palestinians.
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 Yeah. Okay.
Well, no, there's
They don't want them there. Get 'em-
anywhere they go, they want everyone to bow to their beliefs.
That's right.
That's what makes them dangerous.
It is.
Because
They
we believe in freedom of religion here in America. They also believe in freedom of religion in Israel. That's why it doesn't matter what religion you are if you don't even have one. You're protected in Israel, just like you are here. But when their religion starts imposing on everyone else's beliefs,
That's different.
it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see if Germany even responds to that. I really bet they don't. There's increasing pressure on America and European allies to accept millions of potential migrants from Syria and the Middle East. But 5 of the wealthiest Middle Eastern countries, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Kuwait, and Bahrain, refuse to let a single refugee into their own nations.
A single?
Rather than do their share, these countries have closed their borders while calling on others to do more.
These 5 wealthy nations, UAE, Qatar, and Kuwait, are 3 of the 10 richest countries on the planet in terms of per capita income. They appeared worried about the cost, the procedural and security risk associated with accepting refugees, but seem willing to let other nations shoulder the burden. Neither Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, or Bahrain have signed the United Nations Accord that would require them to accept refugees in certain situations.
Well, back in the U.S., the Associated Press is reporting that the Obama administration is actively considering ways to be more responsive to the global migrant crisis, including offering resettlement in the United States to refugees. Peter Bugard, a spokesman for the National Security Council, said the United States is in contact with countries in the Middle East and Europe grappling with the influx of more than 340,000 people from the Middle East, Africa, and Asia. Many are fleeing the civil war in Syria and areas in Iraq under the control of Islamic State militants. Bugard noted that the U.S. has provided over $4 billion in humanitarian assistance since the Syrian crisis began, and over $1 billion in assistance just this year.
The situation has also led to calls for the U.S. to take a greater role in the crisis by expanding its refugee program and making it easier for immigrants to navigate the cumbersome and time-consuming process. The U.S. has sometimes expedited resettlement, as it did in 1975, when it helped tens of thousands of refugees from South Vietnam and other nearby areas settle in the United States after the fall of Saigon.
While in Europe, hundreds of angry and frustrated asylum seekers broke through police lines Monday near Hungary's southern border with Serbia and began marching north toward Budapest, while Britain and France pledged to take in tens of thousands more refugees to try to ease the crisis. As European leaders debated how to share responsibility for those who are already seeking refuge, Germany promised to spend billions of euros in extra aid for those already there and those yet to arrive, and has pledged to take up to 500,000 refugees each year. But in many of the wealthiest Middle East countries, Muslim leaders have totally turned their backs on the crisis. That's interesting.
Isn't it?
Have you seen that picture that came from Saudi Arabia? They showed a picture of only 100,000 refrigerated tents.
Air-conditioned tents.
Yeah,
When they're going to Mecca, that's where they go stay.
but they don't have
Just
any room for
so
them now.
the valley is full of these tents with air
Air-conditioned tents,
conditioners.
and they're huge tents.
They're
Oh,
air
yeah.
for families.
But we don't have any place for refugees.
Well, they don't have the money.
Well, let's see. I can't tell where this
Well,
one's from. Well, following a recent increase in the Russian presence in Syria, Israeli officials have been reassessing how to handle fallout issues arising from the ongoing Syrian civil war. Israel has, until now, assumed a very standoffish approach to the Syrian conflict, sporadically retaliating to attacks by targeting weapons depots and military convoys in Syria that it deemed threatening. However, with an increase of Russian military support in Syria backing President al-Assad, Israeli officials that might be changing their tactics.
Following U.S. as well as regional reports, which indicate that Russia's diplomatic and logistical support for President Assad's forces is turning into major military backing, Israel has begun putting plans in place to avoid an accidental confrontation with Moscow.
Yeah, you wouldn't want an accidental confrontation
No.
with them. Amos Gilad, senior advisor to Israeli Defense Minister Moshe Ya'alon, said in a speech, "We have been informed that the Russians are entering into active intervention. The Americans are attacking. The West, and now, in fact, the Russians and the whole world, are trying to unite against the Islamic State." Gilad told Reuters reporters in separate remarks that it's still too early to know how extensive Moscow's military involvement in Syria will be and whether or not their involvement might clip Israel's wings operationally. Reporters questioned Gilad on whether or not Israel is communicating with Russia in a bid to head off any unintended confrontations between their forces. He responded by saying that there are ways. They are not our enemies today. In Moscow, Russia's foreign ministry spokeswoman said she had no information about any communication between Israel and Russia regarding this matter.
Amos Yadlin, the director of Tel Aviv University's Institute for National Security Studies, predicted that Israel and Russia were unlikely to find themselves pitted against each other in Syria, as the two countries have different areas of interest. Yadlin, an Israeli Air Force ex-general and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's former military intelligence chief, said, "I don't think there's any reason for the sides to collide, as we're not fighting the same enemy. I assume we will be very careful, and so will they. My assumption is that we don't attack any site on the ground in Syria unless we have an excellent picture of who is or is not there."
Russian forces would likely avoid the Golan, Israel's northern front, as it's not their area of interest, and Israel would continue to thoroughly analyze any situation before carrying out airstrikes in order to ascertain that no Russian forces would be harmed. We've got a very, very short time. I want to get right to this last one.
All right.
Kurdish fighters in both Iraq and Syria have reported the alleged use of chemical weapons by the Islamic State. Months of reports by Kurdish forces fighting the so-called Islamic State sparked the start of an investigation by the U.S. and a United Nations probe earlier this year. No findings have been announced by either group, but an anonymous UN official has told the BBC that at least 4 attacks using powdered mustard agents have been documented on both sides of the Syrian-Iraq border. That's documented against the Islamic State.
Mm-hmm.
We assess that they have an active chemical weapons little research cell that they're working on to try and get better at it, the official said. Intelligence analysts have also suggested that ISIS may be using stockpiles found in Syria and Iraq during the group's rampage last year as the group gained territory to establish its self-declared caliphate. You know, I'm pretty sure that when Assad was blamed for using those against his own people, right here on GLC we told you, no, it is the Islamic State that is doing that. And there you go.
Yep, they've got proof.
So anyway, closing thoughts, Mr. Cooper?
Well, it seems to me maybe the people who left out of Syria knew they're getting ready to use those weapons of mass destruction.
Well, maybe
Probably
they
not.
just didn't want their heads cut off.
That's what I mean.
You know what? We sure love you. We thank you for joining us, standing with us, praying for us, and supporting us. We
Pray
will
for
see
the
you
peace
next
of
week.
Jerusalem.
Always.